I don't want to send my kid to study debate because I'm scared they're going to come back and debate against me. It's the opposite. You don't need to love to punch someone or love someone to learn karate. They're not going to be, hey, you and me, kata! They're not going to do that. There's a big difference between being knowledgeable and being smart.
I don't love arguing with people, but do you think I still need to have like some sort of debating
Absolutely.
skill?
That's why a lot of parents send them to me because it's a crucial skill in life.
Can you teach us about how to do the impromptu speaking?
A lot of parents, they would come to me with like this delusional score. They want 1,500. I'm like, never in a million years. Your kid has been slacking off for the past 5 years. Can't help you within 2 months. Sorry, bye. You know, the mom went to the toilet. I was like, hey, where do you actually want to go? When I see students that actually wants to go the distance, I will go the distance with them. What in the fucking is that?
โลกเปลี่ยนเร็ว เทคโนโลยีไม่เคยหยุดรอ และ Gen Alpha มากกว่า 2,000 ล้านคนทั่วโลกกำลังจะโตไปกับโลกอนาคต โลกที่เราอาจไม่เคยรู้จักมาก่อน The Standard และซุปเปอร์จิ๋วชวนมาเตรียมพร้อมสู่โลกแห่งอนาคตในงาน Alpha Skill Summit 2025 งานสำหรับพ่อแม่ผู้ปกครอง และผู้ขับเคลื่อนการศึกษา ที่มุ่งสร้างอนาคตที่ดีขึ้นให้กับ Gen Alpha ผ่าน 3 วันเต็มครบทุกเรื่องที่ต้องรู้ 7-9 มีนาคม 2025 ที่ไอคอนสยาม
Dr. Kevin Liu.
Oh, sounds so good when you say that.
As in Liu Dehua, right? Liu.
Yes. Looks exactly like him too.
Good reference. All right. Thank you so much for coming to Comedy นะครับ
No problem. It's an honor.
All right.
Always love to be here.
Okay. So you're here basically because we love your podcast. We follow you on social media. And we know that you're a debate champion. You teach people how to debate. You teach people how to win an argument, basically. You teach a lot of celebrities and a lot of students about English speaking. So preparing themselves for speech. So am I right so far?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what you do for a living.
So actually, what I realized is that debate is such a niche because you gotta go through some sort of system, some sort of training, and so on and so forth. So what I'm really focusing on is translating debating skills into real life.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between debating and arguing, for instance. Whereas if you're arguing, and I argue with my wife all the time, right? And I always lose, right? Because there's a degree of when emotional components, and the intention is different. When you're debating, there is a particular system you go through. So you set a premise, you have a conclusion, you have examples, and when you rebut based on those things, right? Whereas if you're just arguing, you're trying to win the point at all costs. So this could be appealing to authority, straw man. You can use all these sort of argumentative failures. And so a lot of times when you argue, it gets personal. And this happens, right?
And it could get emotional too, right?
Oh, for sure. So like when a couple fights, they go, oh, what about that last time you did this? Oh, well, what about this time? You're just wrong. You're always like this. You're so bad, you know?
Yeah.
And so when you're arguing, you're just trying to win that point. Whereas in debate, there's just such a systematic structure to it. So I think a good analogy would be if you're arguing, you're just putting a bunch of stuff in the salad bowl. You're mixing it up and you're hoping it will work. And in the end, the best looking salad wins. Whereas in debate, you're following a recipe and you're making sure that this component is for the taste. This is for the aesthetic. This is for the better mixture and so on and so forth. So that's the difference between debating and arguing. And what I'm trying to do is to bridge that gap. I want to encourage couples or interviewers or interviewees and presentations. I want to encourage them so that they can follow this train of thought. Best case scenarios, and I do this in my podcasts and my Instagrams all the time. I encourage couples to work on the problem together as opposed to throwing arguments at each other. So if there's a problem, say for instance, if someone is not responding to the text, or if they just don't have time for each other, right? The problem is not that they don't have time for each other. The problem is there is a different priority and a different definition of what love means in this relationship. So a lot of times, most partners would prioritize the long-term well-being of the relationship. So I'm working hard for my family, I want to make money, and the long-term benefit is what love is. And then they sort of miss out on the short-term, like immediate language of loves. So things like saying I love you every day or communicating every day. And so with the other side, they would often go, wait, but you never spend time with us. How's that love? So I think what's important here is they both love each other. That's the conclusion, right? They just have different premises. And so a lot of people in real life, they can't translate debating skills into real life. And that's what I'm trying to help them to do.
Yeah. It doesn't sound that easy either, because when we talk about debate here, we are talking about competitive debate or debate competition, or the things that we saw the presidential candidates do.
Like that's not really a debate, but okay.
It's not really a debate, right?
That's actually a good example of arguing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's them telling that, without getting too political here, but that's them just sort of tackling personal stuff that's completely irrelevant to the policy.
That's what it looked like, right?
So when I make my debate, when I explain to my debate kids what debating is, I would make them watch the presidential thing. I'll be like, don't do that. That's a bad example.
To do.
Yeah, that's a horrible example.
Okay.
Because they weren't really debating. They weren't arguing the pros and cons. Right. In debating, you're trying to convince and persuade, but it's also important that you concede, which means that at the end of the debate, you kind of go, there are merits to the other side as well. Because like when it comes to debating competitions, I'll just explain briefly how it works.
Right.
Debating competitions, you have the most common style is a 3-on-3 debate. So you got like first speaker, second speaker, third, and third. Each of them has their roles. So the first speaker is supposed to set the metrics or the standard of the debate, right? Everyone should agree, or they can disagree as well, but there needs to be some standard. So I'll give an example. If I say, let's take a very easy example. Which one makes a better pet, dogs or cats? It's super easy, right?
Yeah.
Now what's gonna happen in everyday life is people are gonna start giving you arguments. Oh, dogs are better because they're more loyal. Cats are better because you don't have to clean up their shit around, right? And you have all these qualities. But then there is no standard as to what makes a good pet to begin with.
Sure.
And therefore, there is no weighing on how much merit should we give to each argument. And in arguments, and if you're just arguing, you're just spewing out all these arguments. And then whoever's the loudest wins, right?
Yeah.
But in debate, you're analyzing each argument. You're agreeing on a metric first. You go, okay, here are the qualities of a good pet. Let's agree on that definition first. And let's take a look at the qualities and see which side can give better qualities or worse qualities. So it's a very systematic way of approaching things.
So there's a hard work on the judges, right?
Yeah.
They have to know their stuff. They have to know how to judge the system. And of course, the debaters have to know how to score points.
Yes.
And the judges have to know how to like give points and deduct points.
Nowadays, it's a little bit different. Before, it used to be more manner based, so it's a little bit more like public speaking. You know those movies you saw, like let's unite together, blah 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 blah. Nowadays, it's a little bit more matter based, meaning you don't score that much points by being inspirational. You score more points by being more logical.
So technicality.
Yeah. So if I say let's unite together, the judge will be like, why?
Okay.
Like, give me reasons. Like, there are a lot of my kids, this is what they like. I don't know why they like to do this, but they like to talk about their grandpas and grandmas because they're trying to start that emotional introduction, right? I had a grandma, they start crying on the stage. I'm like, good for you, but you just wasted 1 minute. Go to the argument, please.
Whoever cries wins.
Yeah. So we don't do that anymore.
Okay. Right.
Actually, we've never really done that to begin with. But anyway, so we don't really do that in debate. Whereas you can do that in an argument.
Sure.
When I argue with my wife, she starts crying, I lose. Right? There's no argument.
Right
it's
away.
Done.
I see. Okay, so is it accurate to say that debate is more like logical, not, and you shouldn't use like emotions in debate, or so it doesn't help you win? Is it more or less accurate?
I would say the things in which you say is important, but obviously, if you're able to deliver it in a better manner, that's a plus for sure.
Okay, let's talk about this like better manner. So if it's not like emotional thing, what is it?
Obviously, if you can do the best of both worlds, that's great, especially in the grand finals where you have like audiences. But you realize that in a debating competition, you're not debating in front of a crowd, you're debating in front of one judge. And so appealing to empathy and appealing to emotional is not very strategic.
How did you find yourself into this stuff? How did you get your start in like debating world?
I almost don't want to say this here. It's nothing got to do with debate.
Okay.
It was chicks.
Oh. Oh. For real?
I didn't care about debate at all. I like
Oh.
arguing. I mean, it's
Okay.
always fun. It's always fun to argue, I guess. I have this, I don't like losing. But what happened was I entered the debate club, had no idea how to debate. I just like arguing. So I went in and I saw them debate and I'm like, that's okay, it's good. And then I went to a tournament. And then
How old were you?
I was in college. I was like
Okay.
first year college.
I see.
So if you look at me, okay, I got a lot of good looking friends. I wouldn't say I'm good looking. I'm not bad looking, I hope. Okay, so
You're not that looking.
all right, so I hope I'm average, right? So then like, I needed to find a market that doesn't look at my face.
Ooh,
and-
thinking strategically.
And so when I went into the debating world, there are a bunch of girls that's looking for the intellects. And I'm like, okay, I can improve that faster than I can improve this. And that's what got me there initially. And then I think just like all activities in sports, if you become someone there, you hang on to that. Right? Isn't that the same reason for businesses? They try to create corporate cultures. They try to create like the concept of family and so on and so forth
Yeah.
because they want to retain their employees, right? Because if the employees can find a sense of belonging, then they are more attached. So this is the same thing here. When you join the community, let's say you debated against someone in this tournament, chances are they go to the next tournament and the next tournament and the next. So you start to get to know more friends, you know more people, you have more connections. And normally these are the same people that's going to graduate to become someone in the society. Because you've gone through this intellectual gymnastics activity throughout college. So they're going to be someone. So it's good connections, it's good networking. You have like, you just feel empowered when you're there.
Right.
And that's what prompted me to stay.
Yeah.
And then I thought I was the top of the world. I went on, I debated against teams in Singapore, like just basically like in Asia, an Asian region. And I was like, whoa, there's like people better than me. And that prompted me to want to improve more. And then I went to the World's Debating Championship. I saw some of these like top universities debate. Crazy, right? They're so good. Asia's been doing really well these days as well. And so like that sort of prompted the fire in me to like want to move
Where
on.
were you at the time? Where did you go to college?
I was at Chula.
At Chula.
Chula
Oh, okay. So
University.
it's right here in Thailand.
Yeah, it's right here.
All right,
It's right
okay.
here. Chula actually did very well. I think people likes to classify debate clubs, even in like schools and all that. They like to classify or stereotype debate as like just a bunch of nerds. I would argue it's the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, because there's a big difference between being knowledgeable and being smart. Because if you're knowledgeable, that's good. I don't think I have to be knowledgeable. I have a phone in my pocket that I can search up. It's even easier with ChatGPT now. You don't know anything, you just, right? Easy. So I don't have to be the most knowledgeable, but I have to be someone that can connect the dots and adapt to those knowledge. So if you present me with certain facts, how do I navigate around it? How do I use those facts and live my life? That's what I would define smartness. And in debate, yes, you have to be knowledgeable. It's a plus if you're knowledgeable. But it's a big plus if you're able to utilize those knowledge, turn it into argument format or turn it into rebuttal format and be able to present it in a very persuasive manner. That's debate.
Right.
And that's what I want people to do.
How did you find out all about this? Did someone teach you? Did someone coach you? Or you kind of found that out on your own while doing this?
So when I was in Chula Debating Club, initially there's the Lun piece that's helping me out with the basic rules. And then as I started going to tournaments, I started to discover like, oh, there's this style too. There's this style. Oh, wow, there's this way of convincing. There's this way of, and you just sort of practice, which is something that I would argue is the most important thing. You just have to practice.
Right.
Like repetition and doing. That's actually another difference between debating and public speaking. Debating is impromptu. So you are given a topic, you have 30 minutes to prep. In some style, you have 15 minutes to prep. You got to give a speech. So it's all impromptu.
Yeah.
Whereas there are also impromptu public speaking as well, but there's also scripted. And so when I teach my debate kids, if I see them come up with a script and they're reading it to me, I'll be like, give me the script. I'll read it myself. I can read it better than you. I don't need you to read the script for me, right? So I encourage them to be able to utilize what they have and present it without a script.
Yeah.
That's crucial. That's why a lot of kids, they want to come to me. That's why a lot of parents send them to me because it's a crucial skill in life.
Is something you were good at like from early on in your life or you kind of developed it?
Oh, I peed my pants the first time. No, like this is like I legit peed my pants.
Really?
Like I had to get out of the classroom because I had to change my pants.
Wow.
It was crazy. When it was like what, third, fourth grade? I went on a public speaking competition, and then my dad, being an Asian dad, it's like seriously, he was just like, this is like, yeah, Kev, go. I'm like, what? I don't know these people. Yeah, just go in front of the class. You have a script, right? Yeah, go. And I'm like, okay. And then basically, I was third or fourth grade, and I went into a sixth grade class. And to a third grade kid, sixth grade kid is like bullies, you know? They're like, and they're looking at me, and they're in the middle of a science class. And so I had to go in and give a speech that has nothing to do with science.
Wow.
And all the kids were like, because my dad owned the school. And so he utilized his owner power and just like, yeah, just go in.
That's even worse. Yeah, okay.
And so then like I went in, and then there are all these kids, they're in the middle of a science lab or something.
And what was the speech?
It was about like a historical figure or something.
Okay.
That was way back.
All right,
It has nothing to do with science. And I had to explain it. And so I went in, they were like, what is
And you
this
didn't
kid
have time
doing
to
here?
prepare. I
did.
Okay.
But that was my first time in front of like any audiences. And that was the worst audience possible. Because you got kids that's like semi playing in the background. You got kids playing their nose. You got kids that's talking, you know. And some of them just like laughing at me. Like, this kid, so tiny, you know. And I was like giving my speech. It was the worst. I stopped midway. I cried. I left the classroom traumatized.
Man.
Yeah. And normally the normal response for parents would be like, yeah, it's okay. You can do it again.
But
My dad comes in, next classroom. I don't want to do it again.
wow.
So yeah, I was in.
So it's the kind of dad that would throw the kid into like the deep end of the pool. Like
it's a gamble.
survive.
It's a gamble. I didn't touch public speaking for like the next 4 or 5 years.
God, that was a horrible first like impression of
was traumatized.
talking in front of anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, when what was the first time that you knew that I'm good at this? And how did it feel like? How did it feel like?
Ooh. Oh, that was a journey.
Was it the first time you won?
No.
Or
Back then it was a weird system. So in debate, there's this term called break. Doesn't mean break. It means if your team break, it means that you made it to the knockout rounds.
Ah, okay.
So back then there was this weird rule that is per institution you can only break 3 teams. Meaning if you're on team 4, you're like the team that nobody cares basically because like you don't get to break for sure. So when I first entered, I entered as team 4. And I was like, that's fine. It's my first tournament, team 4. That's about right. Let the Lun Peas have their second tournament, team 4 again. And that tournament, my individual speaker scores actually ranked higher. I was the second highest ranking of my contingent.
Wow.
So we sent like 5 teams. So that's like 15 people, right? So I
Yeah.
was the second highest.
Despite being in a team 4.
Yeah. And so my third tournament, I was like, hey, I should be okay now, right?
Yeah.
I went as team 4 again. So I was like, what's going on? So at that point, I think there was this fight or flight reaction in me that I go, okay, either I quit or I go for it. And that was the point where I decided to go for it. And when I did, I pushed it. I pushed it like crazy. And then I started winning more and more and more. And then I became champion. That was fun. I love champion. I love winning. this is,
Yeah, so this is something that you need to have in order to be good at debating. You kind of need to feel the I want to win this,
Yeah.
and I love arguing. There's nothing wrong with arguing, because some people do think that me for one, I don't love arguing with people, but do you think I still need to have some sort of debating
Absolutely.
skills in life in order to be successful or happy? Even though I don't love fighting with people.
Actually, most debaters that I know, including myself, when it comes to social issues or when it comes to just friends amongst friends, we have a stereotype of oh, you're a debater, therefore you'll speak a lot. I don't want to talk with you. You're gonna, Actually, we're more. We tend to dive in less when it comes to these stuff, right? I mean, we will talk about it for sure, but we tend to stay away from arguments. A lot of my students' parents, they said, I don't want to send my kid to study debate because I'm scared they're gonna come back and debate against me.
Right.
Arguing against me, they're gonna be this chatterbox and all that.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, it's the opposite. It's the opposite, because in debate, you're not learning how to argue, you're learning how to systematically prioritize your thoughts logically. And so a lot of my students, they actually argue with their parents way less because they put themselves in their parents' shoes. And that's what they learn in debate. They go, oh, my parents must have thought of this. Yeah, that makes sense. And then they don't talk a lot. And as for you, to answer your question, if you don't like arguing, my answer is you're not supposed to be arguing. You're supposed to be logically prioritizing your thoughts here and there. And you have to use this somehow. We're in a capitalistic society. You're gonna have to have people that disagrees with you. You're gonna have to use it. Let's start from school, right? In school, you're gonna have to have presentation. You're gonna have to disagree with someone. Teamwork,
Yeah.
right? Once you go to college, there are business competitions, there are all these events, activities, and all of those requires communication skills. All of those requires speaking skills. You graduate from college, you still have team presentation, you have pitch, you have business negotiations. If you're studying in law, or even if you're in any sort of career, you need all of these skills. So you don't need to love to argue. You just need to know how to prioritize your logical thoughts. It's going to take you afar.
And how
in
to
life.
use it when you need it.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned before, it's about convincing people to see your points and
Yes.
to be on your side. And you
Correct.
always need that.
Correct.
That's always a plus, right?
I think a good analogy would be you don't need to love to punch someone or love someone to learn karate, right? You're learning for self-defense. And as a matter of fact, those who learn karate, you'll find are often more reserved because they know what they can do.
Right.
So they're more reserved in a public stage or amongst friends. They're not going to be, hey, you and me, kata! They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the same. This is the same.
This is good. So it's not about fighting and arguing all the time, but it's about knowing how to win it when you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or also knowing when to lose.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, just let it go. It's fine.
Does it happen in competition? Okay, this is...
In competition? No. Win at all
Okay, you
costs.
go all the way. I see.
In competitions, always win. In
I
life,
see.
it's okay to lose sometimes in order to win later.
I see.
I don't mind losing the battle so long as I win the war, right?
Wow. So you've mentioned practicing before, practicing and repetition, and make sure you go through a lot of experiences before you get to be a champion. So how do you train for a debating competition? How do you practice?
So it is actually the same way as how other people would train in normal life. In debate competitions, we're not actually training our skills to become a public speaker. We don't do that. So we don't train by giving speeches. We train by prepping. So we take a motion. Let's say this house would ban smoking in public, let's say, right? We look at that topic and we go, what's the problem in this motion? What's the root cause to it? What's the premise? What's the argument? And we write our case down. And then we present our case to each other, figure out potential rebuttals, and then we try to add on to our arguments. That forever becomes yours because you've prepped it. You don't forget. And so the next time you have motions that's similar, of similar nature. You use the same principles and the same arguments, and you develop further. And that's how you build your intellectual capacity, because you constantly stimulate your brain. It's just like working out. Right? You just gotta stimulate it in order for it to grow. Yeah.
Okay. I kind of think of a debater like a lawyer sometimes. It's like, is it true that you have to be able to like win like either side?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no matter what I throw at you, like, okay, now you be on the opposition, or now you be proposition, and then you can argue both sides.
Correct. So you have to be able to argue both sides, and that gets increasingly tough when it comes to political motions.
Yeah.
I've had Lun Nongs that just, she came to me and she's like, PKF, I cannot debate this motion. I'm just like, you have to go.
Right.
Right. Me
So
personally,
it does help when you
for sure.
like defend something that you truly believe in.
Yeah. I would actually say that it's a double-edged sword. It could help and it could not. You get too emotional, you get too personal about it. Sometimes you can't convey the message that you want to convey. Right? Whereas if you're explaining it on a third-person point of view, it's probably better. In the worlds, we call it bubble room. Bubble room means that you win, you make it to the knockout round. So it was the last round. I was like, all right, this is the last round. I'm gonna get this. Motion comes out. I saw myself, I'm in opening government, meaning I'm supporting the motion. And I'm like, all right, let's go. Motion comes out. This house would ban all porn. And I'm like,
How do I get behind that?
I won, by the way.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, I won. But
Okay.
And this actually helps. A lot of times, actually, when you start debating, and this is the problem with most students right now, is that they have, not just students, like just most people right now, is that they have it's like an echo chamber. They have such a limited worldview, and they're unwilling to explore other points. And so when I was teaching, my wife teaches with me, and there was this one time she came to me and she said, do you ever feel like when you say something, the students listen, and when I say something, like they're like, it feels like I'm nagging them. Like is it because I'm a girl, you know? I'm like, shut up. Like, dude, it's your teaching skills. Change your teaching method and you'll be fine, right? And then as time passed, because we debate about it and because we discuss about it, I start to become more susceptible into these sort of worldviews, and I kind of go, oh, shoot, maybe she's right. You know, maybe there is a degree of unconscious biasness. Agreed. Like, this is the same joke that I use, the same question that I ask everyone. I don't know if anyone ever asked you that. Here, I'll ask you right now.
Okay.
All right. Father and son gets into a accident, right? And when they got sent to the hospital, the surgeon says, I can't operate on him. He's my son. Does this sound weird to you? Who's the surgeon?
I don't know.
The surgeon is the mom.
Okay.
There we go. Right.
Okay.
So like
I've heard this.
yeah.
Sorry, before. Okay.
The unconscious biasness is that the surgeon must be a man, right?
Right.
But if I ask you, are you sexist? Of course you're not. Am I sexist? No way, right? But I think that's the scariest part.
Yeah.
And I think in debate, it helps you explore those things, and you kind of go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And so, coming back to the original question, when I got the porn motion, I was like, oh crap, I can't defend this. This is crazy. But after having to debate it, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, I still would love it, but I understand where the other side is coming from.
Yeah.
And so when someone says something otherwise, I'm not going to respond with anger or emotional appeal. I'm going to be like, I see where you're coming from. And I can argue better that way.
So it helps to kind of train yourself to see different sides of all things.
I think that's a must
all
in
the
debate.
time.
Yeah.
And then it also helps to get the emotion out of the equation when you compete, right?
Yeah.
Try to be like logical.
Yeah.
Then like talk with passion.
Absolutely.
That doesn't always help.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All
That's
right.
correct.
Let's talk about your students. First of all, how did they find you, and how do you advertise yourself as someone who can train people to be good at this? And what do you teach them?
So I actually started with teaching college entrance exams, SATs, which
okay,
ironically is also my most hated subject when I was in high school. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's like, I hate this.
But you're
That
good at
became my
it.
career.
Yeah.
So I started with SATs, and I'm still doing SATs to this day. And back then I was lucky because I think one celebrity came to me for SAT help, followed by another. So that was Jay Preem and Pan Pan. And Joss was there too.
Oh, okay.
Back then he wasn't. He is now.
Okay.
Hope he comes here someday.
Yeah. Well, I'd
and
love
then-
to have you on the show. Hope he's listening.
Put a link. Put
Somewhere.
A link. All right. So then I had all these celebrities come in, and I didn't know any forms of advertisements. And so I wanted word of mouth. I was a true believer of if the product is good, then let the product speak for itself. And so they eventually passed, and then they recommended more people. And that's how it started. And to this day, my place is still word of mouth. Yeah,
I
still
see.
don't do any advertising. There's no, it's actually very hard to find me, like find my personal contact
Okay.
on like the online platform. It's normally word of mouth. Because I'm kind of sick and tired of parents calling me, say, hi, yeah, what is your guarantee of their score? You know, because like other places, they always have like, guaranteed this score. And I'm just like, I can't guarantee you that. I don't know your kid. How am I supposed to know? It's like going to a hospital without getting diagnosed, and the doctor's like, I guarantee I can cure you within like 2 weeks. How's that possible? And so I don't do any of the marketing stuff. I'm probably like Mr. Wonderful. I'm like in Shark Tank, like I'm the merchant of truth.
Yeah.
And so a lot of parents, they would come to me with like this delusional score, like, oh yeah, it started with 900, they want 1500. I'm like, never in a million years. Your kid has been slacking off for the past 5 years of their lives. Can't help you within 2 months. Sorry, bye. You know. And surprisingly, parents likes hearing that. They dig that. And so I then got like more and more reference every year. I think one thing is just to manage expectations to the parents so that they know. Yeah.
And how about teaching people how to debate?
Oh yeah.
So it comes with the package.
No. So these are two separate packages.
I
One
see.
is SAT and the other is debate. Although normally people who learn debate with me will normally go on and learn SATs.
Okay.
These days, I got more and more middle school students and also early high school students that wants to learn debate. Initially, I think in Thailand, it's actually less popular. If you take a look at countries like China, Korea, Singapore, they are crazy over debate. And because parents, they understand the importance of learning this skill. In Thailand, the problem is that they prioritize so much on college entrance. So what they do is they cut out anything that has nothing to do with their resume. And so you have these kids that's pretty much like robots because they blindly following what their parents want them to do. And these are all the skills that they can put on their resume. But they don't develop any soft skills. So they don't know how to negotiate. They don't know how to speak with people. They don't know how to use logical skills, which they will eventually need to use in life.
Sure.
In the short term, it's college. They will have to. And so in Korea and Singapore, they know that. So they send their kids to debate since like very young age.
Yeah.
Right? In Thailand, these days, I'm getting more and more. Because parents, they send their kids to me. Initially, it's always because of what I just said, the logical skills and all that.
Right.
And then I send them to competitions. It's the same pathway I did. I send them to competitions. Kids develop a community. They want to be better. They eventually become so good. They win championships. And that can also be used on their resume as well.
Yeah.
So it's two birds in one stone. So it's
Right.
a whole package. So parents go, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So now I have more and more students that's coming to learn debate.
Yeah. How
Because of
old
that.
are they usually when they come to
13. Like
That's
grade
pretty young.
7.
Yeah.
Grade 7.
you? What?
Yeah. So normally grade 7, and then they will learn debate with me. It's normally like a 4 or 5 year process.
okay.
They send it to me since grade 7, and I'll train them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Grade 9 or grade 10 is when they become really good. They can start
Yeah.
taking championships home, and they'll use that on their resume.
Yeah.
So then they get everything. They get logical skills, presentation skills. I've had parents report that like I actually changed their kid's life because they used to be a little bit introvert. They didn't want to speak out much. And so, depression and all of these other, conditions aside, if a kid is naturally shy, I don't think it's only because of their nature, I think there is a degree of nurture in it.
Okay.
Because they inherently feel like what they say doesn't matter or what other people say is more important. So what I normally do with a student that just doesn't want to speak much, the first thing I do is, let's talk about something you feel strongly about. And they'll always be like, I don't feel strongly about anything. I'm like, that's a lie, right? I look at their phone. Seriously, these days you check their phone, you immediately know what they prioritize. Look at their homepage. Da-da-da. Oh, you play this game. I think this character is the best. It's like, no, what are you talking about?
There you go.
I'm like, yeah, just speak like that. Just speak like that. And so I would go out to the parents. I'll be like, yeah, like your child is okay. Like they can speak. They're just not sure of what they should and should not. So confidence is key. Confidence is key. And that's why people practice, even in public speaking. A lot of people ask me, hey Kev, how do I become more, I have that stage fright. How do I get rid of it?
Yeah.
Well, practice. Know what you're about to say. If you are so sure what you're saying is true, and you just want to explain it to other people, you're not gonna have stage fright. But if you're like, oh, I don't know, like look, if you put me on a stage in front of the world's best like past champions of the world, and you tell me to give a 7-minute speech, yeah, I'll have stage fright. I'll be like, I'll make sure that speech is so damn good, and I'll practice like crazy before I can go up.
Yeah. So it's all about practice.
It's all about confidence,
like building your
practice.
confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also a secret in teaching kids as well. This is just going back to the original question. It's like, how do I teach my kids? I think one important thing, and this is especially true in Thailand, is the kids needs to know what's going on. You know those like red lights, green lights, where they have like countdown on how many seconds? It's actually a great policy because like you actually reduce the amount of traffics, reduce the amount of like people raging under pressure because like they know how long they have to wait, right? So like, okay, 60 seconds. All right, I'll do my stuff. Same thing. The first thing, and this is not just SAT, this is debate as well. First thing I do, I said, hey parent, can you like sit over there? Just bye-bye, get out. Okay, right? Get the kid in here. And I said, are you here because you're forced? Or are you here because you want to? Which one is it? And if you're here because you're forced, I'll help you talk to your parents. I'll help you get out of this because you shouldn't be forced, right? And so I'll get all types of answers. Sometimes the kid will be like, yeah, I'm forced, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, well, do you actually need SAT? Or do you actually like it? Do you want to give it a try? And sometimes I'll be like, you don't know whether or not you like it until you've tried. That's the least you can do. So I said, you know what? Try out my class. Try it once or twice. You don't like it? It's okay. Tell me. You don't have to tell your parents. I'll tell your parents for you. But the premise is you need to want to be here. And you need to know why you're learning this. You need to know how long it's going to take, how much commitment, and whether or not you're ready to take that commitment. And if you're not, come back again next time. That's what I tell every kid. And that's how I manage to keep my class into like, it's pretty filtered. It's because like in debate, you're going to have to work in groups. So if you have one kid that's playing on the phone, it's going to affect everyone. So I need to make sure that the class is like well filtered. And I think the same is true with Thai parents, not just Thai parents, sorry, just parents in general, towards their kid as well. I got this one kid, came to me, kid doesn't speak a word, comes in for SAT, I remember. And I said, what's his score? And the kid's just like, and then the mom just like, oh yeah, his score is this. And I'm like, wasn't asking you, but okay. And then I'm like, what do you want to be? Which faculty do you want to go to? He wants to go to engineering. And I'm like, right. And the kid is sitting up like, And then after that, the mom went to the toilet. And I was like, hey, where do you actually want to go? I want to go to communication arts. And I'm like, oh. And I think what I did was engineering needed math. What I did was his mom eventually sent him to me to learn math. I ended up teaching him math and English for free. The English part was like, I was trying to help him out. And so he eventually got his score so that when he gets his score, he has more options. He can go to his mom and be like, hey, I can also apply to this. When I see students that actually wants to go the distance, I will go the distance with them. You can quote me on that.
Yeah.
Put me in front of millions of views. I don't care. Like, and then that's the quality of teachers that I think is super important. A lot of parents are like, oh, how well do you teach? Who cares about that? we're in the information age. Kids can get knowledge everywhere. They can get it on their phone. They don't need the teachers to know. The teacher is there to serve for two purposes. Number one is to fast track what they originally can do. The same is true with every other industry. That's why you want a coach. That's why you want a trainer. That's why you want all these stuff. Is that you fast track these stuff. So when they come to me, they don't have to go through the trial and error. I know exactly what to teach them. Things that would have taken them for like 2 years, I'll get it done in 6 months. That's why they're paying for it. Number two is I need to make sure that I can motivate them and manage their expectations. They need to know what they're doing and why they're doing it. That's super important. If teachers can do that, then they're a good teacher.
Yeah.
Being good at explaining is a prerequisite. You better be good at explaining. But you can't say, oh, I'm so good at explaining. There's like online videos. There's all of these you don't need those.
Yeah.
You just need a teacher that can do that. And so a lot of parents, because I don't teach anymore, I let my employees teach. So a lot of parents, they come to me like, wait, but you're not teaching. I'm like, yeah, but I'm still there. I'm still there to motivate your kid. It's still my curriculum. I'm still there to talk to them. And that's why they do well. I have a very high success rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hearing you talk about the situations with other parents, I hope things are getting better because listening to you talk before about how you start teaching kids when they were very young, I hope more people realize how important this is in the same way that they realize now that financial literacy is so important. So we should teach about money very early on. And the same thing about how to talk or how to make a speech. Because I don't think we have too little places that teach about like public speaking. Because a lot of people are teaching that, but not for kids, but for adults, like for someone who's already in the workforce.
Yeah.
And they need their skills to be better at representing, like doing presentation. But to try to give them these skills very early when they're young, I think is super important.
It's super important because that's the time where they shape their personality.
Exactly.
By the time you reach adulthood, you have so many responsibilities. And so you have a limited amount of time slot. And so when I teach adults or celebrities, they have such a limited time slot. So all I can do is I can still change their life, don't get me wrong. But it is relatively harder because they are less malleable. So with kids, you'll realize that while they develop their speech and skills, they're also developing their personality. They become more inquisitive. They ask stuff. And that's a great trait to have. They're curious. They have ChatGPT here, right? Or they have, phone. They look at that, why is that like that? Search, knowledge. You accumulate that for 5-6 years, you will be someone in a society. You will, right? It's gonna happen. So it's very important to, I wouldn't say start them like super young, but I think like 7th grade is a great time.
Yeah. So what skills do they need to have besides, number one, knowing what they are passionate about, for example, like for someone who doesn't even know how to speak at all, besides trying to get them to think about what they would talk passionately about, what kind of skill do you think they need to develop?
They need to naturally want it. And that's something that the teachers can only control to a degree. So I can sit you down and explain to you, here's your life path, here's how it's gonna work. Do you like it? And the student can go, I'll try. After 2 lessons, maybe the student will be like, nah, I don't. And that's why all of my lessons are in trial format. I actually have trial courses. That's like 5 times.
I see.
I said, come, try it for 5 times and see if you like it. If you don't, sorry, this is not for you. Most of my students that stays because they have a natural tendency they're competitive. When they fall down, they want to stand up. But if you fall down, you're just sitting there, you want to sit there for a while, then maybe this is not for you. I'm not saying that's bad, by the way. There's a different path for that. But competitive debating is a very niche activity. Communications, on the other hand, is for everyone.
I
There
see.
are different paths you can go.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned the impromptu speaking before. So, I imagine everybody who's watching this is going to be like that. That's the worst kind of like speaking
yeah,
because
for sure.
we have no time for preparation.
For sure.
And we have to kind of make sure that we have to sound smart. We have to sound good, and we kind of have to win hearts at
Yeah,
least.
yeah.
So, can you teach us about how to do the impromptu speaking? Because
Oh yeah, for
yeah.
sure. When you do impromptu speaking, the most important part up front, a lot of people they want to start like, how do I start my speech? Write it down. But then you got 2 minutes. You're not going to finish your script. You're going to finish like the first, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15, 30 seconds max. So the way you utilize the 2 minutes or 3 minutes or in IELTS or however long it is, you have to come up with a skeleton first. Don't think about the script. Don't think about how you're going to start. Think about what is the skeleton of your script.
Like structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say that if there is a topic on why do we celebrate Christmas or whatever, right? I would go, number one, here's the reason. Number two, here's the reason. And then I would go up on the stage based on that script.
Okay.
And it makes a huge difference because if you have a script, you're going up and you're reading. Once you're done reading your script, you're done. Because your creativity will not allow you to add on any new materials. Whereas if you have a skeleton, you have like a bullet point, 1, 2, you can freely and creatively expand. And this is where a lot of people get this wrong because they're like, but Kev, I have a thick accent. My grammar is not good. I stutter a lot. And so if I have a script, no, who cares? Nobody cares about your grammar. Nobody cares about your accent. Nobody cares about, it's just the way in which you want to present. That's super important. I actually have a story that's relevant to this. I got a friend, can't really speak English much. He joined the English debating, he was in Chula Debating Club. And he can't really speak English much. His English is, he went to IELTS and he took the exam. You know the way IELTS is structured, right? It's, they record it. So the interviewer scores you out of 9. And then the recording gets sent to Australia. And then the people there, they listen to the recordings and then they give you another score. And so when he took the speaking test, his score actually got delayed. We're all like, why? What happened? And you know what happened? What happened was that he was so good at interpersonal skills. His grammar was crap. All right? You is, I, like, it was crazy. But he was so good at talking with an interviewer. The interviewer gave him an 8 out of 9.
Wow.
Wrong grammar, wrong everything, but he tried to communicate. He can sense the passion. And so when that tape got sent to Australia, they gave him a 5. And so his score got delayed because never has there been such a high discrepancy. So it just
Right.
proves that how important it is. Right? I do a little bit of magic as well. It doesn't matter what the magic trick is, it's how you show it. So if I got an impromptu, the first thing I want to do is, how do I convince my audience? I don't care about the language. I don't care about the grammar. I just care, these are my talking points. And I just go up and I say, so long as you can say it in a more confident and genuine manner, don't worry about the audience. The audience will like it. I promise you, the audience will like it.
I see. Can you show us a little?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. For example, if I want you to talk about, so what do they usually look like, the topics of the talk? Can they just give you like a word and then?
Normally, it's shaped as this house believes something.
I see.
Normally
Okay,
it's like
so
that.
it's got to be based on beliefs.
Or this house would do something.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can just give me a topic. It's fine.
Okay. Can we talk about how important water is?
That's pretty self-explanatory, though. I mean, okay. So a lot of times, maybe I'll take that water. Instead.
Okay.
There's no labels on it.
Alright.
Right? Like, what I'm trying to do right now is like, I don't want to get into the scientific portion of it because obviously it's important. I mean, the easiest argument is you don't drink it, you die. That's the easiest argument.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of times in debate, scientific arguments, it helps. But if the topic is scientific based, then it becomes a competition of reporting statistics.
see.
And it's not fun.
Okay.
So normally
it
the
should be
topics are
something
more of value. But I can still
okay.
do this, right?
Okay.
I just came back from Wonderfruit. And I had a lot of coffee. And a lot of coffee. Okay, lots and lots of coffee.
Uh-huh.
And this water gave me meaning that I've never felt before. Because water is always something that I drink. And it's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna drink a little bit, health purposes or whatever. So what happened was, as I was, because in Wonderfood you dance a lot, you get kind of dizzy and all that, and sometimes you sort of lose your consciousness in the mode, right? I went there with a bunch of friends, and just out of nowhere there will be like this invisible hands, like, hey, have some water, and like that's all I can remember, right? Like this water bottle, because I needed to stay hydrated the entire night. So like this water bottle gave me a different meaning as to what I always thought. I don't just take it for granted. I woke up the second morning and I'm like, well, thank God I had that bottle of water.
Wow.
Thank God. So like it derived some sort of meaning and value towards it. I think that's also part of public speaking, is that if I just tell you, oh, this is H2O, it helps you with all of these stuff, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But if you're able to build a personal story out of it based on your experience, if you're able to create some sort of reference to it, then it makes your speech a lot more meaningful.
Yeah.
Right.
So you need to create, pull from your own experience and then make it a story instead of a report on a
Correct.
scientific fact.
Yeah, because if I just tell you, here are the facts about the water,
Yeah.
it's not fun.
Wow.
Right?
Good.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
job. Even though it's not such a good โจทย์เท่าไหร่ okay, let's do another one. Okay, I can think of one thing that it's pretty controversial. So it's about, okay, this house doesn't believe that we need to teach kids English language anymore because AI can do that for you.
So I would say three things, right? The first thing in communications is that you have to describe the context. So this is what we call status quo, which is basically what's going on right now. So you have to describe the current situation. And I would say that this current situation is an ongoing trend. We got AI, we have ChatGPT. The globe is getting increasingly more close, right? And so there are other avenues and other platforms to which you can communicate with people around, okay? So based on that context, I would then give several arguments. The first argument is that we are losing our local language. That's actually what's happening right now. Because there are a lot of things like kap, ka, why. All of these are culturally rooted in the Thai society. And a lot of these statements, like the statement เกรงใจ is not in English. These are not translatable. And for those that wants to translate, put it in the comments. But anyway, sorry, content creator habit. Okay, but these are not translatable. And this is something so distinct to the Thai culture that like ยูมีความเกรงใจ it's such an important word, right? And so when you start learning English, this also means that you're consuming foreign media. You're also consuming foreign mass media, social media, all of these stuff, which comes with Western culture as well. So in a sense, you're also losing a degree of your own culture. And that's already happening, by the way, in international schools where kids, they learn English and there's this disconnect with their parents. Because they go, I don't watch this, I watch this. And they start speaking in a language that the parents don't understand. And that's problematic, right? And so the debate really is not whether or not we should teach English. The debate is, should we preserve our culture or not? And how important is that? And so that's where my argument is going to lie on. Why culture is so important and why culture is attached to our language and why we must learn it. Yeah,
And you do believe in that?
No. I think we should
You
learn
don't?
English. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, obviously we can learn English and learn Thai at the same time. Like, why does it have to? It's just how you implement it, right?
Right.
It's up to the parents.
Right.
But you're gonna have to.
So it doesn't matter what you truly believe, as long as you kind of find a point to debate for the stance that you need to.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that, like you said, it could be such a valuable skills and qualities if you can do that in the real world.
Oh, for sure. I benefited so much from it. I was at Sasin. Sasin requires 2 years of work experience to get in. That's minimum requirement. I worked for half a year, but then I had debate champion on my resume. So they called me in for an interview anyway. I shouldn't be there, but they called me in anyway.
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, you were a debate champion. You do presentations. Because Sasin is more like business related, right? So they're like, if I give you a topic, can you give me a speech? I'm like, sure. So they gave me a topic and I gave a speech on the spot and I got in. I was one of the few that got in.
Wow.
like the entire history. And then later on, when I moved on in life, I did some businesses here and there. The ability to negotiate and to communicate and to network, it's crazy good.
Yeah.
Because you know what to say and you know what not to say. And you know how to get your way through life.
Right.
And I think most parents cannot visualize that because there's like not like a point A to point B, but this is like a soft skill that just benefits you in general.
Yeah.
I feel like I benefited a lot
Right.
from that.
So, what other mistakes people usually make when it comes to trying to win a debate?
Oh, they argue.
They argue.
They
Yeah.
appeal to you. Well, what do you know? You don't even do this. Like blah blah blah. Like the volume starts to get louder and louder, and it becomes like an emotional fight as opposed to an logical fight. This happens to a lot of couples. This happens to best friends. Right? A lot of people just choose not to talk to each other. It happens. That's the most common mistake.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's also the reason why lots of celebrities they come to me. They don't come to me because they want to do public speaking. They're so good at it. They do it on a daily basis. But they want to know beyond the script that's given, if I were to network and talk to people, if I look at a speech right now, or if I look at, let's say, this conversation, in my head, you know what I'm doing? I'm dividing this statement into premise. This statement is an example. This statement is for the problem. And so throughout this entire podcast, a lot of times I'm aware that I'm off topic, and I'll be like, "Oh, so to answer your question, I'll come
Yes.
back." Right. So that's the ability, and that's what all of them wants to learn because it benefits them so much.
And of course, they want to be able to do it in English.
Oh,
because
yeah.
learning from you, of course, you'll teach it in English.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Along the way, when they hear me speak, they'll pick up some vocabularies that they will choose to use themselves as well.
So most of the celebrities or your students, when they come to you, what level is their English at
Yeah.
usually?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, it needs to be like you need to have a degree of English speaking. A lot of parents they send their kids to me because they want to learn English. I won't be able to do that because I feel like there needs to be a threshold that they must pass. So what I'm doing is I am shaping your English and organize it better. But you got to have something first.
Okay.
Yeah.
But can you teach anybody at any level of English how to debate? Like when
Normally,
it
I
comes to
would
you,
do-
and I have like out of 10, I'm at number 3 or 4, level 4. Can I still be good at debate?
You will be good at debate in the language that you prefer. So it will not be
Okay.
English debating. Because sometimes you won't be able to express the thoughts. You know the logic, you just can't express it. And while I can teach you how to express it, I cannot teach you the vocabularies and the phrase in the long run. That's like 10 years of work,
Okay.
right? Can't take that shortcut.
I see. But if you have time and you still
Oh, for
want to
sure.
learn from you,
Oh, for sure.
you can teach us like how to do both, like
Oh, for
getting
sure,
better
absolutely.
at English and then getting better at debate too.
Absolutely.
Oh,
if there's
wow.
time.
Yeah.
For celebrities and for business people, they normally have 5 sessions worth. And so within that 5 sessions, they get all the tips and all of the stuff. They know how to separate things. And from there on, they are better equipped to practice on their own.
I see.
And that's normally how the course goes.
Wow. Oh, so much fun.
Yeah.
So we know that you have a child, right? You have
Yes.
how many children do you have?
I got one kid.
Okay. And how old?
Her name is Bella. She's 4.5 years old. Gonna be 5 soon.
Oh, okay. So a 5-year-old. Wow. So does she talk a lot?
Oh yeah. She talks
Okay. And does she argue with you a lot?
I sometimes lose, actually, without appealing
So
to
being
emotion.
a champion doesn't help. when it
No,
comes to-
not at all, not at all. Like sometimes because like it's so tempting to play the parent card. It's so tempting.
Yeah.
My wife does that all the time. Why? Why? Because I'm your mom. You know. I mean, it's understandable. They ask you like 1,000 questions every day.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. But like you said earlier, that sometimes you don't need to win, or maybe you
Correct.
don't even want to win
Yeah.
with some people.
Yeah. I just want her to have her moment.
And of course, being your daughter, she would learn a lot from you too when it comes to like organizing the thoughts and how to like verbalize all.
That's
okay.
actually for sure. I'll tell you one thing that I think I'm doing slightly different from most others is that I actually will spend I will take that extra effort to explain to my daughter when and why. Because I can recall during my childhood, I actually can remember. I was like genuinely curious. If we're heading somewhere, I want to know where we're heading and how long it'll take. And now I get it from my parents' point of view. It's like, it doesn't matter how long. Because like, if I tell you an hour, you can't grasp how long that is anyways. So what's the point of telling you? And so for me, what I would actually do is I would try to, like, there was like this sand timer thingy. I'll give it to her and I'll be like, here, this thing rotates 3 times. We're going to be there. What are we doing there? Oh, we're going to go to this. This is what's going to happen. And so she learns that everything we do, there should be a reason. And if there's no reason, find one. The reason can be stupid. It could be because, oh, it just makes me happy. Or it's just like, oh, it could be just because, right? But there should be a reason. And that's what I sort of train her to do, to question. And it's driving my wife nuts because she answers all the question, not me. I'll go ask mommy. It goes.
I really wish we had more time because it's been an hour since we started talking. Yes, yes. And I had a great time today. And I want to talk to you more about stuff because what you're teaching is what I do for a living too. And sometimes I'm still struggling and I want to do better. And I do know, and I hope more people know the importance of like teaching your kids how to be confident and how to speak up, speak their minds. So thank you so much for coming.
No problem.
And yeah, you're the best. Please go follow his podcast. Mainly you're on IG, right?
Yes, mainly on my IG.
I see. Okay, we will put up the link here and please go and follow him. All right. And before we go, of course, our show is called Comedy. And I'm interested to know if you have your most favorite words in all the languages.
In all the languages?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say this?
Yeah, you just speak Thai, English, and also Chinese, right?
Yeah,
Mandarin. Yeah.
Oh, am I allowed to say this on podcast?
Sure. Why? What is it a bad word or?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Yeah.
That's our favorite kinds.
Fuck.
Ooh.
That's definitely my favorite word.
Yes.
You know that the word fuck is the only word that can be used as an adjective, adverb, noun, verb.
Yeah, very versatile.
It's very versatile. Like I can say, what the fucking fuck is this?
Yes.
I can start with fuck. What in the fucking fuck is that fuck? I can say that.
Okay.
And it's a grammatically correct word.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
It's the best word.
And what do you think about people like wince every time they hear the word fuck? Like, bad word, don't say it.
Yeah, I mean, for the purpose of this podcast, I would say if you're young, please don't do it.
Okay.
But we all know the adults do it. And just don't overuse it. I think that there are times where using that word really holds in that gravity. It really it's the right word to express yourself.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that it's a bad word, but it's probably not best used in like a more, like in debate, we encourage you not to do it.
Okay.
Right? That side has no idea what the they're doing. Like we don't. I encourage you to not do that.
Okay.
I can already envision my students going, "Hey, Kev, replaying this part." Oh my goodness. Don't do it.
But that's what you think. That's your favorite word.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite
who's to
word.
say it's wrong or right? Or it's the first time too that someone mentioned this word as their comedy. So thank you so much for everything, and I hope you can come back and visit sometime too.
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
future.
Absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
would love to be here. It's been an honor, pleasure. Seriously. Thank you so much.